I teach civics, and I believe in representative democracy, which means that our commissioners, whether it's 3 or all 5, really, they need to listen to the people who live here. And in order to listen, that means that you have to do this thing called showing up. Okay, and Commissioner McCoy says that since the minute he heard about this, he's been against it. The unfortunate thing is that was a very late minute. Let me tell you why. A woman came to our city commission meeting, her name was Sherry Lynn, and she spoke about this 16-pump mega gas station, and unfortunately, Christopher McCoy was not there. The following week, even though her comments were included in the minutes, okay, he approved the minutes, which he apparently didn't read, because the next week, when it was brought up again at the city commission, he said that he hadn't heard anything about it. So he had 2 opportunities to learn about that gas station before that commission meeting. But in addition to that, and it again goes back to showing up, the Monday before that last city commission meeting, in our neighborhood association of Tropical Ridge, we spoke about it for about an hour after the meeting was over, and Commissioner McCoy is not present. You have to show up. You can't represent people if you're not present.
Yay!
Okay. Next question. That last question finalized the Bryant Park Neighborhood Association Board questions. The following questions now are from our membership. Are you in favor of raising electric rates? Has this always been your position? Commissioner McCoy.
I am not in favor of raising electric rates. Here's what I am in favor of, and have been very consistently. How many of you know how many cents you pay per kilowatt hour in this room? Got 1, 2, maybe 3. That's probably about the size of it around the community. And I'll bet if I asked each of you what the number was, you might even be off by a fair amount. Nobody cares what the rate is that we charge. What they care is when they open that bill and it says $200 on it, $300, $500, and we have a number of those and more. That's what they care about. And you don't fix that by noodling around with the rate, because we don't have a lot of leeway on the rate. We buy the power, or we buy something that we burn to produce the power, and we have no control over either of those prices. What we do have control over, and should long ago have taken much better control, like Gainesville, like many other cities, is making sure that we work and first identify who's getting a bill that's more than $100 a month. Because that means you're using more than the statewide average of power. And if you're using 2 or 3 times the amount of statewide average of power, it should be our job as the utility to be going to your house and saying, is that what you want to be doing? And if not, let's help you figure out a way to do less. Not by the rate, you don't have leeway on it. It's by careful, intelligent, active conservation programs working with consumers to reduce the money that's going out of their pocket. We should have been doing that a long time ago. When I came in, we had that program. My colleagues voted it out.
Thank you, Commissioner McCoy. Mr. Joseph.
I have a short answer for that question. My answer will be no. And we still need to do more for the resident. My campaign, I'm with every 10 people that I meet with. If I can count on my finger, all of them say they keep crying because of electric problem. Remember that I said that earlier. People tired of paying 2 mortgages. Why should we raise it up? We can do that. We need to do more, and we must do more to raise it down for people. That's what they need. That's why it's part of my campaign to make sure that to satisfy the resident of the city of Lakewood with the electric rate.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Sure. Are you in favor of raising electric rates? Has this always been your position?
So So I can tell you that I am not in favor of raising electric rates. I am in favor of keeping them flat unless and until we receive some information that says it's impossible for us to do a good job without raising electric rates. And on that matter, I will defer to the experts who we are paying in our electric utilities departments. These guys are engineers. I'm not. They know more than I do. And I'm paying them, or rather the city's paying them. You all are paying them so that we can take their advice, and that's really important. It's interesting to me because bills are important. I'm a young guy, I'm 27. When I graduated college, I understand what it's like to have to come up with an electric bill, and it's tough. And so obviously, having low electric bills are really important, but it's weird to say that the bills are not a function of the rate. The bills are necessarily a function of the rate, and we should do what we can to make sure that they are flat. The other thing is that it's hard to say that we have no control over the rate when we're generating 2 megawatts of power down in the south side of town with solar that Commissioner McVoy has championed. It's very difficult to say that. So I obviously believe that we should continue to keep our rates flat going forward, and also we should look at our rates for commercial users of power as well, because there is a differential there, and we should do our best to lower it. And that again goes to my point of attracting small business investment here. We still have a reputation. Even though we've lowered utility rates here, we still have that reputation of a place where your electric utility bills are too high, and there's a hangover there. We need to do everything we can to reverse that perception. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harden. Commissioner McCoy, rebuttal.
We don't have, despite what you're hearing, you have to be careful, this is politics, so people say what they think people want to hear. The 2 megawatts of power at the landfill is 2 out of about 80. About 30 of our megawatts are fixed base stuff that we're committed to in very long-term contracts that we have no control over. Do you think that the city of Lake Worth has any control over the price of natural gas on the world market? I don't think so. That's what I mean. We don't have control over those things. What we do have intense control over, if we choose to do it, is to look at the bills that people have. We very much have control over that. And focus on those, getting rid of that reputation that I completely agree is a real damage to our city, to have a reputation as being the most expensive. We're not the most expensive, we never have been, even a while back, but that reputation, that perception is a big problem.
Thank you,
Work on it through the bills.
Thank you, Commissioner McCoy. Thanks. It's so hard not to comment on this question. Next question. Whose responsibility is it to support the arts in Lake Worth? The Commission or CRA? Mr. Josephs. I'll repeat the question. Whose responsibility is it to support the arts in Lake Worth? Commission or CRA?
I think it's the commission.
Okay, is that your answer? Thank you. Mr. Hartman.
So, not a lot of people know this fact about me, but I initially went to the University of Miami before I changed my major to economics. I went there to study opera, so I have a love of the arts, and I have to tell you, it's neither the Commission's responsibility nor is it the CRA's responsibility. It's all of our responsibility as voters, as people who live here, and we should, be patrons of the arts. And so obviously there are things that the Commission could do to incentivize artists to move here. Obviously there are things that the CRA could do to incentivize artists to move here. But also just as residents, we got to take a visit to the Playhouse. We've got to go to a concert, whether it's here or whether it's elsewhere, whether it's FAU, whether it's Congress. We can make this entire county, including Lake Worth, an arts mecca, and we have the opportunity to do that. But it's all of our responsibilities as citizens. Thank you.
Well, obviously, that's kind of a strange question, whether it's the cities or the CRAs. We cover different land areas within the city. We should both be working on it as much as possible. The question is, what are you going to do to promote the arts? And I think that our past almost opera singer, I'm looking forward to opera coming, that would be great. as he suggests, we should all participate in art. That's fine. But that's not what we're about. Commissions have to make policy. Here's the thing that I would say, because I've heard it for years. We have a strong community of artists here, but if you talk to them, and if they're ones that have contact with other parts of the country, which many of them do, and you ask them, do you feel that city policies support artists in this town? And the answer is no, they don't. They struggle along, but they're not supported. And one of the biggest things that people have asked for is make it possible for us to be artists and do that in the city. As long as we're not, constructing a kiln the size of this room and turning on so much electricity that the whole city turns dark when you turn it on. As long as we're doing things that are reasonable and can be compatible with neighbors, and you can put some things in place to do that, we should be encouraged to do our art in this city. And the city should help us. I worked for probably about a year trying to help a group of artists that were trying to do that. Commission shot it down. We don't put our money where our mouth is at the commission level. I think the CRA has done pretty well. The artist lofts are wonderful, but there are not very many of them, and it isn't for everybody. Many artists want to live in various parts of the city, and they should be able to. So we need to do better on the policy to support artists in real policies.
Thank you, Commissioner McGowan. Round of rebuttal, Mr. Josephs, please.
Remember, people try to tell you what they want you to hear. If I would like to have a question for you, which one are you going to take? The people has good people who are talking with nice speeches, or people who are working hard? Sometimes people come and they have nice stuff, and then they're not going to be able to do anything. That's why I don't talk a lot. As you can see, I never done my minute. I'm always done sharp, because I'm a hard worker. I'm ready to work. Think about that.
Thank you, Mr. William Josephs. It's so hard not to comment. I love opera. I know some people don't. Okay, next question. Have you ever worked on environmentally beneficial projects that add value to our city? It's Mr. Harvey's next.
Well, I'm not an environmental scientist. That's not my forte, but I have cleaned up my neighborhood block, and that's one small step that I can take. So, and that's really important. You don't have to be an environmental scientist. You don't have to be some expert to make an impact, to do your part. You just have to, the next time you see a candy wrapper on the ground, the next time you see someone draw on a ladder, just bend down and pick it up, right? If you do nothing, nothing will change, and that starts with the smallest things. And if you have an expertise, then use it to the benefit of your community. I applaud that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Commissioner McCoy.
Well, I think the question is a little unfair to ask if you would read it again for us.
Sure. The question is, have you ever worked on environmentally beneficial projects that add value to our city?
I guess the reason I was going to say it's a little unfair to ask that of people who haven't served in government in the city because they don't have the same opportunity to do it. What I've worked on that I'm very proud of, that made it all the way to the Wall Street Journal and other national news, is when we engaged in the project to install our new LED streetlights, which is generally speaking a good thing. It uses less power. However, there are serious health concerns about the nature of the light. Who's heard of the term 2700K? We got two, three people. To measure the color temperature of the lighting. How blue is it? How yellow is it? And that, the AMA came out, the American Medical Association came out with some concerns because there's a lot of LED substitutions going on. If you know the industry, which I do, you will know that people will argue that it's cheaper to use the blue stuff. Exactly the stuff that the medical folks say is not healthy. In fact, there are pretty good epidemiological studies that tie it to breast cancer incidence around the world. I fought and made sure that we got 2700 Kelvin, the better temperature lights, in fact, a little bit better than we, pushed it as hard as we could, and we got it. And we even got the state to do it on the state roads. That's the first in Florida that's been done. That's why it made it all the way to the Wall Street Journal. And yes, it does take some technical knowledge and some caring and some pushing and working with the right organizations to do it. We got it.
Thank you, Commissioner Bryant. Mr. Joseph's your turn.
Who doesn't like to clean? Everybody does. As you can see, I'm a very clean guy. Everywhere. Not only in my neighborhood, where I'm staying right now. Everywhere. I don't like to see that. People dropping stuff down. You can lay down everywhere. And then, District 1, District 2, District 4 and 3. That's why I told you guys, I'm not going to be a commissioner for only one district. My dad's free as a teamwork. It's not because there were the guys on District 2 or on District 1, District 4, District. We have to work together to make sure we get the job done. We have a competition. I know I'm going to win this. I'm not going to only make sure that to see my district clean, and then when I jump on the district, it's not clean. Many people, they don't know about district and this stuff. They don't know what the limit is. The only one thing they want to say, City of Lagos is dirty. They're not going to say District 2 is dirty or whatever. They want to say City of Lagos. We need to make sure that's all the residents of the City of Lagos need to put eyes open, watching your neighbors, to make sure not only your house, and then take care of others. Don't stop around. If you see anything, you can call me too, and I will make sure. I remember in the hurricane season, I follow everywhere. I'm the one who called BBSO, call the office. We don't see anybody coming. And I call BBSO, thanks God, they send us to the leadership. We cannot do anything because we don't have any machete, and we don't have nothing to clean up. I make sure I stay there with them until they're done.
Thank you, Mr. Josephs. Are there any rebuttals to that question? Next question. How would you want public comment handled while in office? Stay the same or change? Commissioner Kaplan.
Very clear on that. I think we need to have longer speaking period from the public. Right now it's at 2 minutes. I would make it 3. For the non-agenda items, I would keep it at 2 for the individual items, so that if we have 15 items on the agenda, that we don't have, we're not there all night, but we need to have public comment. I think that's one of the things that I'm most frustrated with, and hear from a lot of people that I'm frustrated, that we do not do very well at taking input from the public and listening to them. We tend to, as staff and commission, come up with an idea and push it out. I don't think that's the right way to do it. I don't think that's appropriate for this community. The other thing that I would very definitely change is that if you take the trouble to come to City Hall with an issue and speak to us, I think we as commissioners owe you the decency to respond to what you said. We used to have a policy that each commissioner, if they so felt, when all the public comment was completed, we made notes, if we felt like making notes, and we would respond to certain things. We didn't respond to everything, but we had the opportunity to give people some feeling that, yes, you've been heard. Here's what we're going to try to do to address your concern, or we sympathize with your loss. Whatever it is, I think it's not at all appropriate that we do not have that part of our meetings.
Thank you, Commissioner Ford. Mr. Josephs.
I really think this question is for Commissioner Manford, because he's been in the office. I never been in the office before. It's my first time wearing. But according to what I seen when I went to the meeting, Commissioner Mike were always fighting. And then sometimes I left the office. I don't say. But you know what? Even when I was in school, I always been friend, even not to friend with others. We always try. There's nothing wrong with that. As a commissioner, you need to work together. Not because you have a problem with one of your fellow commissioners and you have a problem with the community. Remember, you have thousands of people waiting for you. They suffer. This question is not for us. It's for Commissioner Manpower because they want us in the office. But if I become a city commissioner, saying I'm going to, I will make sure that people, they handle that. Because they are the ones who put us at the office. Why we don't want to listen to them? Listen, people, I'm here to listen to you. Like I told you earlier, I'm a student. I'm here to learn from you, to follow your advice, to make sure, not only mine. It's the time right now, we don't think about I, think about us. Because you, the people.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Mr. Harvey?
Well, I had the pleasure of teaching the First Amendment to my students today. And it has 5 rights, right? Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, and the freedom to petition your government for redress of grievances. And public comment is a part of that tradition here. And I am for increasing public comment from 2 minutes to 3 minutes. And I would like there to be some mechanism whereby the commission would be forced, hopefully they're not forced, but where they would have to respond to issues that people are having. Maybe it should be like the White House. If you have a petition and it gets to a certain number of signatures, then we should have something where the commission would have to respond in writing, in public, and I think that's a good way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Are there any rebuttals? We are getting close on time. We're getting close to the end of our questions. So if we could keep them quicker and shorter than the time allotted, that would be great. With that, I'm going to ask this question. What are your feelings about the Gulf Stream and why? Mr. Joseph. And by the way, Gulf Stream Hotel. As opposed to the wind stream off our coast. What are your feelings about the Gulf Stream Hotel and why?
Gulf Stream Hotel is a good opportunity, it's the biggest resource for the city. Why? It's going to create more opportunity, more jobs for people. We need to have it open and stay open. Because you know why? We have people coming from Lakewood, go to Boca Raton for $10. Wasting gas, expensive gas. Sometimes they can have accident. And we have big resources over here in the city. Only one thing we need to do is to make sure, have some budget. Find it. So our commission needs to work together to make sure that's happening. Keep it up. We can hire more people. The Gulf Stream Hotel is, so I can say, I want to stay open because it's better people stay right there and work for $9 an hour instead of going to Boca Raton for $10 and losing gas, and sometimes they can have accident on the road. That's why our fellow commission, they're supposed to work together to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do. This question also is for Commissioner McBride because it's been there. There are some questions supposed to be specifically for Commissioner McBride.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Mr. Harvey.
Well, I'll be brief on this issue because my feelings about it are very strong. I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame that Hudson Holdings is in the position that they're in right now. And I think that just goes to show that that's what happens when you allow 3 people to hold back a city of 38,000.
There you go.
has the opportunity, if someone could get in there and invest in it and revitalize it, it has the opportunity to be a jewel along this coast, and we can do that, but we have to send the right message to the people who we want to invest in. And it goes back against my point about bringing in business investment here. We cannot expect companies to want to come in here and to take risk, which is what it takes to invest, to take risk. We can't ask them to do that if we're sending them the signal that you're not welcome. And so, look, first of all, we have to change our posture towards business here in this city. We can't send a mixed message. We have to invite people to invest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Commissioner McCoy.
I don't think I was one of the 3 people that was referred to, because the 3 people voted to support the zoning of that. So
That
I
was
think
the
I was a
lawsuit.
little bit confused.
The lawsuit.
Like a lawsuit, Chris.
The litigants,
But
Your constituents.
the litigants.
People that write.
here's my feeling about the Gulf Stream. I'm very clear on it and have been all along. I feel exactly the same way as everybody else in this city. We would love to see the original historic Gulf Stream building actively a financial and economic part of our city. Working, doing something, whether it's a hotel or whatever it is, functioning. We love the building, we're fine with it, we want it used, all good. The issue has been that we had a developer that came into town and wanted to do things on our beach, tie it to the Gulf Stream, assured everybody that they would listen to the community and proceeded not to. And now that same developer that many people said at the time, you know what, I don't think they're really all that serious about doing anything with the Gulf Stream. They are now putting it up for sale and wanting to flip it, which has not helped our city any. And you might look up Hudson Holdings and look up their code violations on the Gulf Stream and on their other properties that they own in the city. They have not been very good landlords here, unfortunately, and that's in the record. They are now bad-mouthing the city, and you have a candidate for office here who is saying that, well, the city should have been more cooperative. This city bent over backwards to try and get them in. That's not where the problem lay. The problem lay with the intentions of the developer from the get-go. It's unfortunate that they didn't pick a plan that would work with the existing historical building, because they would have had 100% support in this community to do that. I'd love to see it go. I think it's going to be challenging. It's not something the city can do. We don't have millions of dollars to do that. It's got to be somebody who really does care about the city and wants to make it a going concern, and would have opened businesses in it downstairs.
Thank you, Commissioner McCoy. Mr. Harvey, you have a rebuttal?
First off, well, it can be said that the city bent over backwards.